G20 ಅಥವಾ 20ರ ಗುಂಪು 19 ದೇಶಗಳು ಮತ್ತು ಯುರೋಪಿಯನ್ ಯೂನಿಯನ್ ಅನ್ನು ಒಳಗೊಂಡಿರುವ ಅಂತರ್ ಸರ್ಕಾರಿ ವೇದಿಕೆ. ಜಾಗತಿಕ ಆರ್ಥಿಕತೆಗೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಿಸಿದ ಪ್ರಮುಖ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳಾದಂತಹ ಅಂತಾರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ಹಣಕಾಸು ಸ್ಥಿರತೆ, ಹವಾಮಾನ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ತಗ್ಗಿಸುವಿಕೆ, ಸುಸ್ಥಿರ ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿ ಮೊದಲಾದ ಹಲವಾರು ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳನ್ನು ಪರಿಹರಿಸಲು ಈ ಒಕ್ಕೂಟ ಕಾರ್ಯನಿರ್ವಹಿಸುತ್ತದೆ. ಭಾರತ 1ನೇ ಡಿಸೆಂಬರ್ 2022ರಿಂದ G20 ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷ ಸ್ಥಾನವನ್ನು ಹೊಂದಿದೆ. ಈ ಬಾರಿ G20ಯ ವ್ಯಾಖ್ಯೆ ವಸುಧೈವ ಕುಟುಂಬಕಂ, ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಭೂಮಿ, ಒಂದು ಕುಟುಂಬ, ಒಂದು ಭವಿಷ್ಯ. ಭಾರತದ G20 ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷತೆಯ ಭಾಗವಾಗಿ ಪ್ರಸಾರ ಭಾರತೀಯ ಅಂಗಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯಾದ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನ ಆಕಾಶವಾಣಿ ಕೇಂದ್ರದ ಸಹಯೋಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ರೈಸ್ಟ್ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯದ ವತಿಯಿಂದ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನ ಕ್ರೈಸ್ಟ್ ಡೀಮ್ಡ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ, ಬನ್ನೇರುಘಟ್ಟ ರಸ್ತೆ ಕ್ಯಾಂಪಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂವಾದ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವೊಂದನ್ನು ಇತ್ತೀಚೆಗೆ ಆಯೋಜಿಸಲಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಉನ್ನತ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾರತದ ಸಾಧನೆ, ಅವಕಾಶಗಳು ಮತ್ತು ಸವಾಲುಗಳು ಎಂಬುದು ಸಂವಾದದ ವಿಷಯವಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ವಿವಿಧ ಗಣ್ಯರು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳೊಂದಿಗೆ ಸಂವಾದ ನಡೆಸಿದರು. ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು ಸಾಂಸ್ಕೃತಿಕ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ನಡೆಸಿಕೊಟ್ಟು ಸಭೆಯನ್ನು ಸಂಪನ್ನಗೊಳಿಸಿದರು.
Coming about Akashvani Bengaluru station, operating under the umbrella of Prasar Bharati, stands as a beacon of cultural significance and informative outreach. With a commitment deeply rooted in its role as a cultural custodian, the station elegantly showcases Karnataka's vibrant heritage through its wide range of programs. I need not say about the Christ deemed to be university because you all know better than me, but still Christ deemed university Bannerghatta Road campus is a dynamic academic center dedicated to providing undergraduate, postgraduate and research programs that are recognized on an international level, having NAAC accreditation of A+ grade. The Department of Media Studies at Christ has been consistently ranked among the top educational institutions for mass communication in India annually. Now coming to the present program, the panel discussion following Giant Strides by India in Higher Education, Opportunities and Challenges explores India's progress in the field of higher education on the occasion of G20 Summit 2023. This event, presented by Prasar Bharati Akashvani in collaboration with Christ deemed to be University, Bannerghatta Road campus, aims to shed light on the transformative strides taken by India and its potential to become a global knowledge hub, as well as address issues linked to diversity, access and legislative reforms, while highlighting accomplishments in quality improvement, international recognition, digital transformation, research and skill development. The panelists across different universities, different colleges are participating in this esteemed program, and they are discussing about the success and challenges of the present situation in education system in India. So keeping in all the importance of G20 presidency, Government of India is trying to communicate its rich culture to the entire world and wanted to discuss certain issues among the general public, especially with the youth and women and also the farmers. As a part of this endeavor, now Akashvani Bengaluru is conducting a discussion right now, and you are going to witness it very shortly. This is a golden opportunity to know the sentiments and opinions of our younger generation about our education system at the present context. So we have organized this symposium here, and we extend a warm welcome to all of you. Welcome, sir. Welcome, madam. Welcome, madam. My colleagues from All India Radio and young, bright, exuberant, doleful enthusiasm. I see so many faces. It gives me a great pleasure to be with you for this event. The topic now is connected with education. In the G20 group, there is an education working group which had series of meetings, and they have agreed upon that G20 countries have agreed upon the role of education as a critical enabler of human dignity and empowerment globally. The countries agreed upon the need to work together for resilient, equitable, inclusive and sustainable future through education. Apart from that, they also agreed for 4 priority areas: ensuring foundation, literacy and numeracy, especially in the context of blended learning; making technical enabled learning more inclusive, qualitative and collaborative; building capacities and promoting the lifelong learning in the context of future of work; and strengthening the research and fostering the innovation through enhanced collaboration and partnership. See, as you all know, earlier education system and the industry, they were all working in silos. There used to be a constant complaint by both of them that esteemed institute like that is Christ like institutes, they used to churn out students. But when they go to the industry, they were not industry ready. That was a big challenge, which every time there used to be complaint by the industry that the students coming out, we have to train them for a week, for a month, for 6 months to bring them to our requirement. So that was a big challenge, and the new education policy, which is thinking to completely modernize, and I think this year is already being affected, to modernize and make it use the technology to the maximum. And at the same time, they want to use the technology and impart the skill which is more practical, so that the students, when they come out of the institutes, they are able to get the jobs and get into the position at the shortest possible time. So this is actually a challenge, and I'll be particularly based on the topic which has been selected for the day's thing, giant strides by India in higher education. So there are challenges and there are opportunities. So now it is an opportunity for the institution like Christ to upscale there, as it is, you are already well recognized throughout the world. Foreign universities also recognized to a great extent an institute like yours. On a similar line, the more such kind of institutes are coming, it helps not only for the students, it helps for the country to build up an image among the developed countries and among the developing countries also.
The very thought of bringing this collaboration, I must thank Dr. Parshuram Kamath, who hearsay immediately came and said, this is what we want to do, and we could not have had better opportunity than this. So thank you so much for putting all this together. Coming to the panel discussion, I think this is the content that we are discussing now in the present times on how education and the way forward. We are making a lot of changes, we are making a lot of reforms, and so what? The giant stride in education, for education, by the higher education institutions. I'm sure there was a time, a few years ago maybe, we complained that we are not doing enough. We complained that we have not benchmarked enough. We also thought that we are not able to do that much to the students, but not anymore. And I'm thinking that we are in perfect competition with all the universities in India and abroad to provide that kind of a quality education to the students. Having said this, I also want to remember that we should be talking about it in the context of pan-India. It is not one educational institution, two educational institutions or few, but what is it that India per se will have to look into in terms of doing much better than what we've been doing for higher education. We know what we are supposed to be doing. I completely second the thought of Mr. Anil Kumar when he said, what is it that we are doing now is industry and academia in parallel world and working in silos. That is where I think the question of, are we still complaining or questioning the thought of unemployment, or are we looking at the employability perspective? They both are different. If it is unemployment, yes, we know we are not doing enough. There is, lack of jobs maybe. But if we do not keep you ready for the job, then that's a question of employability. So a lot of skills required for you. What is important in education? I am waiting to for the panel discussion much more than anything to see what our younger generation is looking at. What is it that you are demanding or wanting out of education institution in terms of maybe student support, in terms of quality of academic life on campuses, the degree of skills that has to be trained to you, much more. And finally, what is it that we are doing here is to understand what more we need to do to students to make it a better place for them to learn, and the end objective is gainful employment. Thank you very much.
At the helm of incentivizing the Indian audience about the prestigious G20 summit is none other than Prasar Bharati. As a part of India's G20 presidency, it is our utmost privilege to be collaborating with Prasar Bharati in association with Christ, deemed to be University, Bannerghatta Road campus, as we present to you a panel discussion titled Giant Strides in India in Higher Education, Opportunities and Challenges. This discussion aims to delve into achieving a balance of growth while maintaining academic standards and accessibility. As we embark on today's agenda, let us keep in mind the theme of India's G20 presidency, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future, signifying the power and importance of global unity in tackling multifold issues such as economic crises, climate change, and poverty.
We will begin the panel discussion. The flow of event would be like this. We will have a free-range discussion to begin with, where the participants will share your viewpoints. And then to pivot the discussion and make it much more focused towards three broad areas. One, from employability point of view. Two, from the point of view that education is not just for employability, we are preparing you for life. And that's the agenda that all educational institutions must look forward to. And thirdly, and the most important one, which is discussed, debated around the globe, SDG goals. Can we look at important strides that higher education institutions in India can take up to take this forward, SDG goal forward, and ensure every graduate has this in them. So it's more like a life skill that we need to develop, and not just as a pedagogy or an andragogy that is used in the classroom. So with that introductory remark, I'm happy to see bright panelists, students, the youth of the country who will lead us by example. I'm sure your insights is something which I am personally looking forward to. As a professor, it's important to know what my students want, and only then I'll be able to deliver better in the classroom also. So it's going to be a learning experience for me, and that's what made me grab this opportunity. So we'll begin with Kimaya from RV University.
The very foundation of our country is based on higher education. From the second five-year plan, our government has invested very heavily in heavy industries. Those were supposed to lead India into a bright future, and for heavy industries, you require skilled labor, and skilled labor comes through professional degrees in education. The IITs and IIMs that we have today have been a product of that very time. India has become the second largest country in the world with a higher education system with, I believe, 1,000 universities, 4,000 colleges, and there are several more open universities as well, like IGNOU. After the positives, after independence, we come fast forward to the 90s, which was when there was a boom in the IT industry, the period of globalization, which had a very big impact on higher education, because a booming IT industry meant more accessible computers, laptops, digital devices, and this meant that there was the establishment of a lot of long-distance courses and open universities. Despite the positives, however, there are a lot of inequalities in higher education. The inequalities span across gender, they span across income groups, they span across rural-urban backgrounds, and they even span across the type of education that we receive. In higher education in India, 68% of it is general education. So education that's focused in liberal arts and humanities. And only 32% is focused on STEM and professional degrees. And for us at RVU, we share a campus with RVCE, an engineering college of 10,000 plus students. So 32% of the higher education being focused on STEM is a huge shock for us. Moreover, I feel that any discussion on higher education is incomplete without talking about the private and the public sector involvement. And in India, 78% of higher education is dominated by the private sector. And I think for us as a country, this just does not sound right. Because not only do we need educational access for all for our economic growth, but how can we allow, how can we restrict access to education to anybody? I would like to end by saying that each and every one of us here is very privileged in that we have access to education. We're able to study at the universities we do, to pursue the degrees we want to, that we have an interest in. And being here and debating on the challenges and opportunities of higher education is our way of a small step of paying that privilege forward. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Himaya. Couple of things that I thought we should take away from your introductory remark is the fact that you made note about the value education, which is at the very essence of the system itself. The purpose, like I said, is not preparing you for jobs, but it is for preparing you for life, to ensure that you take up life in the right spirit. That's definitely one aspect I thought we could take away. Of course, there's a urban-rural divide we see in terms of access to education. But one thing that I would like to bring to the notice of all the audience here, I'm sure we all have discussed, debated this across different platforms, is NEP is sort of a democratization of access to knowledge. I strongly believe that it has enough scope for ensuring that every single person who is interested to be educated in the formal education system or otherwise has access to that. And that's one point we should keep in mind as we go ahead discussing and debating opportunities and challenges. Of course, it is lamentable that we see STEM education not being given so much importance like you highlighted. But we also know for a fact that if you're just focusing on employability, firms are equally giving importance to STEM courses. Google has enough opportunities for those who pursue STEM kind of courses. They ensure that they mentor students who are pursuing STEM courses as well. Those were a couple of points from Himaya's speech. Let's move on to Anusha from NMKRV. Can you please have your opening remarks?
Education helps people grow physically, mentally, and their character too. It's like bringing together their thinking and how they're gonna face it in front of the world. Like what I personally feel is we have to bring the Gurukul system where they recognize their skill, their talent, and they give a good sharpening or where they make them competitive, where the world is very competitive. So it's better we find each and every student talent or what they're good at, and we have to recognize it in very young age, like maybe when they are around in 5th or 6th, because that's where we have, where we actually study a lot. For example, when right now we have just 3 subjects and I struggle a lot to study, but back when I was in my 6th or 7th, we hardly, we had around 10 or something, but I used to somehow cope up with it. But yeah, that's what, it's better we bring the Gurukul system or whatever, where we recognize the talent and sharpen it. Thank you.
Thanks, Anusha, for bringing up the skill-based training that you propose that we need to concentrate on. And of course, that's the need of the hour. And when we speak about skills, what here at Christ also we believe is it is not just the academics, it is about the co-curricular, extracurricular activities that students take part in. And interestingly, the kind of learning that they get when they are out on the field, maybe during doing an internship or participating in activities like these, those are the activities that are honing their skills. Not to discount, being a professor I can't discount, you don't have to listen to me in the class. But I've realized that this practical learning in the form of exposure to the industry hones your skills that would definitely be required for you to take up not just a job. I think one underlying theme that we've been trying to explore here is how to prepare you for life as well. I think that's point well noted. On that note, can we hear from Kartikeya Chaturvedi from Dayanand Sagar University?
And I'll present some numbers, some facts, and some of my own interpretations of the research that I've done. More than 1,000 universities, nearly 50,000 colleges, and more than 11,000 standalone institutions. One of the largest higher education sectors of the world, India. And still, most of these colleges, universities, and standalone institutions are located only in certain parts of this country. Is it fair? Okay, let it be. We produce more than 1 million engineering graduates and postgraduates, nearly 3 times that of USA. But at the same time, the top 5% of our engineering graduates are don't even compete with when it comes to quality of learning outcomes with the bottom 5% of the same number of US engineering graduates. What does that mean? Anyways, moving forward. In 2002, Article 21A, right to education, was inserted in the Indian Constitution to provide free and quality education to all the students present in this country in the age bracket of 6 to 14 years, irrespective of caste, creed, gender, sex, religion, etc. And still, more than 19,000 students have dropped out from higher education in the past 5 years, according to a report of India Today of 3rd March 2023. What does that mean? It means that India has made a lot of progress when it comes to higher education. The scope of higher education in India is vast. It's huge, I would say. The number of colleges, the number of universities, the number of courses, the number of autonomous courses is vast. It's stupendous, I would say. But at the same time, the quality of education is suffering. It's poor, I would say. the methodologies of teaching do not translate into employment or into the life of student. And at the same time, no matter how many efforts were made by our leaders and by our bureaucrats and by our authorities to ensure that quality education is provided to each and every citizen of this country, we still suffer with disparities in higher education. So which means that even though we have come a long way, if we see our progress from the times of independence and later on from 1950s, 1960s, 70s, we are completely different. But at the same time, there are a few problems that are still hurting us, that are still damaging our higher education system. So, we have come a long way, but we have to go even longer. Thank you.
The philosophy that you're trying to bring in is that we need some sort of a LPG moment for the education industry. Among the audience, what is LPG that I'm referring to? Yes, louder. Yeah, as long as it is not liquefied petroleum gas, it is relevant for our discussion. Liberalization, privatization and globalization. It is a fact, it is definitely a fact that privatization has happened. We look at private universities, colleges, but liberalization in terms of the course structure or the rigor in which the system is built in definitely needs a reform, and that's what I hope NEP will be able to offer. In terms of globalization, I think we need a strong collaboration with not just international universities in the form of exchange programs, but sort of a research collaboration also. I'm sure as we go forward with the discussion, these points will be raised, and hopefully we'll be able to find few answers to the pertinent questions that you have raised. With that, I would welcome Gautam from SRN Adarsh College to please present your views.
Most of us have heard stories like a family, a head member of a family, sacrifice their necessity for the sake of education. So this shows us the priority we set for education in our country. And this priority we set as a citizens of our country have great responsibility on government, associative bodies that are of higher education, as well as students, because we are the one who pursue education. We too have a set of obligation as well as responsibility. By going, so India has made remarkable progress in the field of higher education in previous decades, most notably the reform it's bringing, that is National Education Policy. And there are many high-class universities in India, and we also have a set of challenges that need to be addressed. What are the key drivers of the growth of higher education in India? Because by understanding the key drivers of growth of higher education, we might tackle the challenges, we might grab the opportunities far more well. So in the coming discussion, we will discuss all that. Thank you.
G20 ಸಮಿಟ್ಟಿನ ಥೀಮನ್ನು ತಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ. ನನ್ನ ಮೊದಲ ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನು ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳೋಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತೀನಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ತಂದೆ ನನಗೆ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಒಬ್ಬ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಒಂದು ಮರದ ಥರ, ಮರಕ್ಕೆ ಶಕ್ತಿ ತನ್ನ ಬೇರುಗಳು. ಯಾವಾಗ ಒಂದು ಮರ ತನ್ನ ಬೇರುಗಳನ್ನು ಕಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೋ ಆವತ್ತು ಆ ಮರ ಬಿದ್ದಂತೆ. ಹಾಗೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ಮನುಷ್ಯನಿಗೆ ತನ್ನ ಬೇರುಗಳು ಅವನ ಮಾತೃಭೂಮಿ, ಅವನ ಮಾತೃಭಾಷೆ. ಯಾವಾಗ ಒಬ್ಬ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ತನ್ನ ಮಾತೃಭೂಮಿ, ತನ್ನ ಮಾತೃಭಾಷೆಯನ್ನು ಮರಿತಾನೋ ಆವತ್ತು ಆ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಬಿಟ್ಟಾನೆ. Now the reason I say that is because the theme for G20 is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one nation, one family. And I believe one of the major issues that we face as a country today is that, yes, it's true that we have made giant strides in higher education, but I believe, having moved abroad, a lot of the students that go from India have, in one way or the other, forgotten where they come from. And I think that is one of the major contributors to why we as a nation at one point see this as a dark spot in terms of education. Just touching upon a couple of challenges I feel the country is facing in terms of education. Just to start off, we look at something called the general enrollment rate. Now this is a measure that the UNESCO uses to understand the number of students that are being enrolled in every country. It is disheartening to know that India stands at a mere 15%, which was something very disheartening for me to read. Next, I think we have to talk about the lack of infrastructure. I think, as my fellow panelists did mention, we are very privileged to be sitting in this auditorium. The mic that I hold, the auditorium that I'm speaking to, is because I'm privileged and I'm here speaking these words. However, just allow me to digress a little bit. When we talk about higher education, we have to also understand the predecessor, that is school education. One of the major drivers is infrastructure in school education, and we realize that a major reason for dropouts in schools is because infrastructure in terms of toilets, in terms of classroom, is not adequate in terms of, why there are so many dropouts in terms of schools. And the last point I'd like to touch upon, something that's been a topic of discussion, is accreditation. Yes, universities do provide education, but it also is important to understand and measure the standards to which they do so. Of course, all of us are very grateful because we come from universities that do provide education of the highest quality. But when I pulled out a couple of data from, a couple of strands of data from NAC itself, NAC says out of all about 30,000 set colleges in the country, only 25% of them are accredited, and 30% of the 25% have a rating of A+. Now this calls to understand why, as a country that's given so much of importance in terms of education, why is it that we aren't able to hold up standards? Obviously, going forward, I think we can discuss further on the opportunities that the education system will hold. I think I would like to end with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vignesh, for those opening remarks. I'm sure retaining talent is a big challenge. While we take pride that we have the best of CEOs and CFOs of MNCs sitting across the globe are from India, why are we not doing enough to retain them here in India? Of course, that's a point that we need to ponder upon. I think you had also mentioned about the fact that it's not just about freebies that the government should focus on, but probably quality education at the grassroots levels. And of course, NAC as a body has its own ways of functioning, and it's a rigorous process. It's not easy that an institution undergoes accreditation. And we know for a fact that having undergone that rigorous process, there is some external body who's validated that, look, when I give you an A+, we believe that you're delivering quality. And it's important that we respect that realm of how an institution like NAC validates the processes that institutions follow. And it's not a mere number game, it's not mere documentation that goes into the process, but a thorough understanding of what goes into that quality. Right? Thank you so much for bringing those points. Over to Komal from ChristUniversity for your opening remarks.
So, being a pre-service teacher, essentially, I have a rather positive outlook on the higher education paradigm in India. Yes, there are challenges, I will be addressing those, but we have made significant important steps in the direction of moving forward. So, first of all, according to the All India Survey on Higher Education 2020-2021 by the Ministry of Education, the enrollment in higher education has increased by 7.5% in the last 3 years. Further, as we all know, there has been a notable proliferation in higher educational institutions like IITs, NITs, private universities, and central and state colleges and universities. Further, the esteemed institutions in the country are drawing exceptional talent and producing exceptional research outcomes. We have been collaborating globally to acquire research grants and we have been moving up in global rankings. Further, with a growing emphasis on sustainability, many institutions have adopted an eco-friendly practices. For example, the IIT Madras has an eco-friendly environment as they have incorporated energy-efficient buildings and water conservation measurement. We in Christ also have a zero-waste campus due to the conscious efforts of Parivartana. Further, we know that there has been an emergence of the digital revolution, and the digital revolution has introduced online learning platforms which has democratized the educational access, transcending economic disparities. I can say that because we know the establishment of Pradhan Mantri Vidya Lakshmi portal has made it easier for people from marginalized communities and rural areas to apply for grants, scholarships and educational loans. Further, we have portals like NPTEL and Swayam, as we know, which reaches out to the rural area people and provides high quality educational courses. Now, there are certain challenges that we are facing as a society in our higher education, such as there is a disparity in access to quality education. The disparity in access still persists today. There is a lack of skill-based education that has led to an increasing number of individuals being highly educated but unemployable. Also, there is a rigid separation of disciplines with early specialization into narrow areas of study, as a result of which it limits critical thinking and relatability to the students. Also, there is less emphasis on research due to lack of funding and some bureaucratic hurdles. Thus, a very interesting news hit our TV channels in 29 July 2020, that is the National Education Policy of 2020. The policy attempted to alleviate major concerns in our higher education system. NEP emphasizes on multidisciplinary undergraduate education and holistic development. Further, more autonomy is to be given to the institutions and the faculty for the design of the curriculum, which has to align with the contemporary knowledge and skill requirements. Further, NEP emphasizes a lot on teacher education. Now, teachers are at the center of any education system. So, NEP has made sure that the teacher training is rigorous and proper. One of the biggest issues that we are facing are standalone teacher education institutions that provide degrees without proper knowledge, and to eradicate these practices, NEP states that by 2030, only educationally sound, multidisciplinary and integrated teacher institution programs will be in force. A 4-year integrated B.Ed will be minimum qualification for school teachers, and the PhD students will also learn pedagogy in their doctoral period. Further, there are some skill development initiatives such as the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana and Skill India. Thus, I would like to say that despite of all the hurdles, the positive changes in India's higher education system are truly remarkable, and the growth in infrastructure, technology, inclusivity and accessibility are hallmarks of a promising future. Thank you.
Thank you, Komal, for highlighting the sustainability initiatives at the campus. We are a zero waste campus. We also have the STP, sewage treatment plant. And the Center for Social Action is very active here, which not only caters to just ensuring waste management here on the campus, but also offering quality education to the deserving and the needy. You also brought about the multidisciplinarity that the NEP wants to bring in. It's a moment of pride for me to inform the audience. I'm sure you all know that this campus is a multidisciplinary campus. The very philosophy of this campus is to ensure that we have not just different disciplines coming together for the purpose of education, but for the purpose of research and also what we could do to the society at large. Thank you so much for bringing up those aspects. Over to Muhammad Omar from Government Arts College for your opening remarks.
I would like to give an overview about what I'm speaking now. Firstly, I will come to India, the Indian education system. Don't worry, I'll not go to the history. Then I would like to show you the opportunities, what all are there. Then I would like to go to the challenges. So let me start over. India is a country which has the oldest education system of the world. We have Takshashila and the Nalanda University. Huan Stein from China, who traveled across the world, wrote a book, and he described Takshashila in details about what all the books that we had in Takshashila. We had from medicine to architecture to technology to engineering. Our civilization is known for the very oldest civilization of the country. We have Indus Valley civilization, which is known as, it is a testimony of the time that we had the best system of everything in that Indus Valley civilization. Now coming to the opportunities that we have in our country, there is no lessness for talent in our country. There are many talented people in our country, but the very philosophy of our country is socialism. It is in line with the political system and everything of socialism. That is why somewhere down the line, our system creates mediocrity and promote mediocrity rather than meritocracy. So that is the one thing that we need to take. Socializing and networking, opportunities. Why education is important? Socializing and networking. It helps in the holistic development of an individual and helps to connect with different kinds of people in day-to-day life. So you can see, when we come out for education, we meet many kinds of people from across the country and across this thing, especially in my college. I'm very privileged to announce this on my stage, that we have very good diversity in our college. From Christians to Hindus to Muslims to Sikhs, everybody in our college. That is one thing that I would like to mention. A happier and healthy life. Obviously, education leads to a happy and healthy life. We will come to know what is right and what is wrong when we are educated. So that is one opportunity that we can take. We have many talented people in our country like Sundar Pichai, Satya Nadella, all of these people, Indra Nooyi to be precise. And we have a billionaire, Indian billionaire in the USA, who is known as Jay Chandra, who is the CEO of CZ company. So he is running that company and he is a top billionaire among Indians in the United States of America. So what education helps in? It also helps in poverty reduction. Obviously, when British left India, they left us poor. They looted trillions of dollars from this country. They left us poor. They left us malnourished. They did all kinds of atrocities in the country, and they left us poor. But we were able to so fortunate that we have all kinds of minerals and resources in our country that we were able to overcome that. And according to the literacy rate, when the British left, the literacy rate of India was 16%. By the God's grace, we have been able to bring it to 77.7% in the 2023 data. I would like to again emphasize on what education does. It promotes good citizenships and reduces crime. When you don't know what are your fundamental rights and fundamental duties, you will not be able to do your fundamental duties nor ask for your fundamental rights. So that is one thing that you can do. So the education also helps in that. And coming to one thing that I would like to mention, that in everything, United States leads the list. You take military, United States. Who is the best economy? United States. Who is the best superpower? United States. Why United States? When all engineers from the country, NASA, 25% of engineers in NASA are from Indian origin or the Indian Americans. They are either born to an Indian parent or they are born from India to the United States of America. So we have n number of talent in our country. Just the need is promote little bit of capitalism with the principle of socialism. I'm not saying socialism is a bad principle. It is a very good principle which takes everybody along together. But individualism has to be there, because somewhere down the line we can't take everybody together with us. So when it comes to capitalism, we have to promote capitalism in our country little bit. So it's not that government has not taken initiatives. Government has taken many initiatives to revive our education system. That is RUSA, Rashtriya Uttachar Shikshana Abhiyan, which was done in 2013 with partnership with state government and the central government. In some ratio, 50% used to contribute by the state government and 50% from the central government. National scholarship programs for all the minority communities and midday meal schemes, right to education 2009. And all of these things the government has done. What are the challenges? We need to look up to the challenges also that our country is facing. Enrollment ratio, obviously. enrollment ratio. Why the enrollment ratio is declining in our country? That is because the distance, especially for girl students, from the minority communities, people are afraid to send their daughters. We see in the news many headlines what all things are happening in our society. So the people are fearful that if they send their daughters, something else would happen. So the societal pressure is also somewhere down the line. That is why they are not sending their kids. Caste-based admission process. I have seen them in my college and as well as some universities also, wherein caste-based admission process is done. General merit, we have 46, and SC/ST, we have 15 seats or something like that. We have these. These needs to be eliminated because to run a country, we need a democracy. To run an institution, we need meritocracy to be promoted. Family conditions make an additional dropout ratio. Family situations, sometimes boys have to drop out to be able to support their family and all of these things. And the quality of education, the next point is, quality of education needs to be improved. Lot of skill development things needs to be introduced. We have recently the headlines in Bangalore that we need waste management kind of thing the government is planning. So we need more skilled people to be able to see what is happening in the country. So waste management is a good resource. Few people say waste management can be done in two ways. It can be seen as a resource and it also can be seen as a environmental pollution eradication. So that needs to be taken care of. Saying this, I would like to conclude. Thank you, one and all.
The mark of higher education isn't the knowledge you accumulate, it's the skills you gain about how to learn. This is a quote by an industry professional, Adam Grant, a professor at University of Pennsylvania. Before I get into the statistics and the arguments, I would like to retell an anecdote that my father has narrated to me on several occasions. Until his 12th grade, him or his peers did not have any idea or even a clear sense of direction about what they wanted to pursue in higher education. Halfway through 12th grade, they randomly enrolled themselves in a local commerce college and they thought, we'll see where it goes from here. In contrast to that, one of my nieces, who is currently in her 7th grade, has already started preparing for National Institute of Design, an institution she won't even be applying to for 5 more years. This is a tale of 2 generations, separated not only by the age difference, but also by the attitude towards and approach to higher education. There has been a rapid and stark increase in competitiveness when it comes to higher education. As one of my fellow panelists already mentioned, according to an educational survey taken in 2020-21, a record 4.14 crore enrollments were made by students across 43,000 plus colleges and 1100 plus universities, a rise of 7.5% from the previous year. Now, why is this sudden paradigm shift occurring now? Of course, employability is one of the major reasons behind that, and as Sir mentioned, we'll be discussing about that later on in the panel discussion as well. It's almost impossible to sustain without higher education in these changing times. Again, the reasons for them are obvious, because higher education has the following benefits. It helps in personal growth and development, innovation and research, a global perspective, and networking opportunities. It also has an added incentive to verify whether the romanticization of college life made in movies like 3 Idiots is actually achievable or not. There is an argument that all of these skills could be learned on the job without the bookish knowledge of formal education. Well, a counter argument to that is when employers are looking to recruit employees, they look at college graduates because a college graduate has went to the same institution for 4 years or 3 years, sat through 6 hours of classes daily, submitted assignments on time to meet the deadlines, and has completed all the work assigned in a relatively better manner. Higher education is not just about the knowledge, but about the discipline that it inculcates in the students. As India gears up to hold the G20 summit later this year, let us take a look at some of the achievements made by the nation in the educational sector. To put things in perspective, in the last 10 years itself, 6 new central universities, 7 new IITs and IIMs, 15 AIIMS, 209 medical colleges, 320 new universities and more than 5,000 new colleges have been opened in India itself. This upscale in infrastructural facilities is the resultant of a drastic paradigm shift at social as well as policy level. Indian education is also being globalized at the moment. For instance, IIT Madras is in talks with Tanzania to set up a campus there. IIM Nagpur is also going to set up a campus in Singapore. These moves will put India on the global educational map. It will also force Indian institutions to improve the quality of education to compete on a global scale. This globalization is not just out of India, but into India as well. The UGC is finalizing guidelines to allow foreign universities to set up campuses in India under the National Education Policy 2020. There can be two purposes to allow foreign universities into India. One of them could be diversifying Indian education system as well as the quality standards. The second is to create healthy competition. If foreign universities come and set up campuses in India, Indian educational institutions will be forced to upscale their quality and opportunities to compete at the global scale. As per the data presented by the Ministry of Education in Parliament recently, nearly 7.5 lakh students left Indian shores for higher education abroad in the last year. Why do students leave? They leave for better opportunities and better quality of education. If Indian institutions are able to provide that, majority of resourceful and skilled youth will stay in India and contribute to its development on all fronts. For example, in the last 5 years, less than 8% of IIT Madras graduates have left India. That is a testament to the new India and its modernized educational system. One of the biggest achievements that India has achieved in the educational sector is in terms of gender. In the 2014-15 academic year, female enrollment in higher education institutions constituted only 45% of the total enrollments. However, in 2020-21, that percentage went up to 49%, with a whopping 2 crore enrollments were made by female students out of 4 crore total enrollments. At least in terms of higher education enrollments, India is at the brink of gender equality. However, only infrastructural facilities are not enough. What are some of the challenges that still plague our education system and holds our students back on the global scale? Well, cases of fraud, political violence, caste discrimination, gender oppression, and all other social evils often crawl into our news feeds where these happen in central as well as state universities. There are also some structural inefficiencies such as the 3-year UG program, which prevented our students from going abroad for higher education, although a lot of these challenges are being addressed by the National Education Policy. The biggest issue, as per me, is outdated curriculum. A handful of universities in India offer futuristic courses like artificial intelligence, data sciences, blockchain technology, etc. Even outside of technological sciences, environmental sciences and sustainability are the need of the hour in this drastically changing climatic conditions. It is my pleasure to declare that I am learning a course on environmental humanities this semester itself, thanks to Christ University and its futuristic viewpoint. Climate change, interestingly, is also one of the foremost agendas of India's G20 presidency, as emblematized by its motto, One Earth, One Family, One Future. If students are armed with spears and arrows in a gunfight, how are they expected to even survive, let alone win the battle? Well, the National Education Policy 2020 does attempt to address a lot of these issues. But one of the biggest initiatives taken by NEP 2020 is going back to Indian traditions and ancient knowledge systems. Johann Wolfgang Goethe once famously said that a nation that does not honor its past has no future. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is also the architect of India's G20 presidency, echoed this sentiment in his book The India Way, where he says India must rely on their own traditions to equip them in facing a tumultuous world as they prepare to make larger contributions. Personally, I would like it if even just the attitude of Indian students towards the Indian education system changes. Simply complaining and disbelieving in the system could be counterproductive. It is us, present students and future leaders, who have to be the change we want to see. In summation, exciting times are coming up in the Indian educational scenario. India was once the epicenter of higher education in ancient India, with universities like Nalanda and Takshashila being the global hub of education. As our Prime Minister rightly pointed out in the G20 Education Ministers meeting earlier this year, education is not only the foundation upon which our civilization has been built, but is also the architect of humanity's future. Let us all collectively work towards restoring India's legacy as the bastion of academic and intellectual discourses. Thank you.
Bandish almost took me back to my old and gold probably. I remember my parents saying, just finish 7th standard and you are set in life, you don't have to worry further. And then I did a decent job. I go to 10th and again they say, 10th is all what you need to finish and then you're all set. I mean, don't worry about your life, it's all set. Then go to 12th, 12th same story, degree same story, post-graduation same story. I think the fixation we have about formal education and what it can do to mold the student as a holistic person, not just because they're educated by virtue of a degree, but more than that, I think that's a point well noted. I think he's also made a clarion call for each one of us sitting here to say it's not enough if you just cry and crib about what are the problems that we face here. We have that, this and all of the issues that you might probably face, but it's up to us to make the change. And thank you so much for call for change. We as educational institutions can skill up in terms of the courses maybe we offer, and also what are your expectations in terms of how you can be employable by virtue of having these skills, or also looking at how it could lead to employability. I think those were also the ideas which was proposed by the speakers before us. Maybe you want to take about 30 seconds to think about this and then quickly share your thoughts.
One of the essential qualities that or skills that is required for employability these days, irrespective of which discipline you belong to, is coding. Because coding is the future, technology is the future. So irrespective of what field you belong to, coding is an essential skill that could drastically improve your prospects for employability. Another thing that is mentioned in a book called Range, Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World, is again a point made by one of my fellow panelists earlier, that range is very important. Specializations are slowly eroding, and generalists are in more demand these days. So having a multidisciplinary approach to education could also help in improving prospects of employability.
So as we have already discussed, for employability, we definitely need to build our skills. But apart from that, I feel information is also very important. So colleges can include some career counseling, and based on that, they can provide courses for soft skills as well as vocational education according to the student's choice or requirement. Further, just skill development for industry is not enough. We need holistic development. That is, socially, culturally and emotionally, the child should be able to carry themselves in the real life world. So I think social, emotional and cultural development is also equally important.
Now, to become an asset, you need to become an asset everywhere, in your college, in your school, in your social sphere. That means you should be ready to provide something to whichever sphere you are in, which means that you need technical skills are something that can be taught. And if your mind is fertile, and if you are skilled enough, and intelligent enough, and smart enough, you can definitely learn technical skills pretty easily. And if the teacher or the educator is also skilled enough, he or she can teach technical skills and various other skills very easily. But what is important to learn is the human factor, critical thinking. The ability to analyze everything and take decisions in the best possible time is very important to become more employable. Human factor of ethos and leadership, that you should be ready to make sacrifices and take decisions and to support the people who are around you, your company, your social sphere, your college. Like for an example, the team of CGMC, in order to support me for this event, to make me more capable for speaking and for presenting my views, they helped me a lot. They gave me articles, they taught me how to speak, and they're still over there wishing for my success and wishing for my best performance. So this is something that cannot be taught very easily, and it is very necessary. It is not something that can be bought just by reading a few books. It is something that requires personal interaction and a human touch to education. And if this is ensured, then we can definitely make sure that not our students, our youth, does not become more employable, but at the same time, they become an asset for the society and they benefit our society in whatever way possible. Thank you.
So in terms of employability, I think one very important aspect that I think should be embraced within education is a multidisciplinary approach. I say that because all of us, with whatever little experience we've gained through internships in the corporate world, they do tell us you might be working in a specific department, but it's very important for us to understand the larger umbrella under which your work impacts what the firm does at a global level or as a whole. Now, if you bring that down to education, I was having a conversation with Oza just before we came up on stage, where as a business student, in my first and second semesters, I am encouraged to take up a course that is offered by the Department of English and Cultural Studies, that is the Language and Context course, where I was made to read multiple sets of courses, articles that focused on social issues, that focused on cultural issues that were rooted into our system, which do hold relevance in the context of business. A very important example was a rap song that was called Kodaikanal Won't, was that focused on the so-called evils that a certain conglomerate was putting in the area of Kodaikanal. Now this of course has social and cultural narratives to it. At the same time you understand the business aspect of it as well. So if business students don't just study business, if English students just don't study English, if engineering students just don't study engineering, and then diversify the sort of knowledge that they can gain, however deep that they can go into it, I think that would make us more employable going forward.
Okay, what is your take on, what are the kind of skills? I think you've discussed about need for skills. What do you think are the skills that we need to imbibe when it comes to making students ready for their life at large and not necessarily employment? Because we also as a philosophy, we believe it is not just placements that we want to look at the end of 3 years for an undergrad program, in the masters 2 years, at the end of 2 years we want all our students to be placed. That's not the core value at which Christ works also. So can I have quick 2-3 remarks from the panelists on this? What do you think are the skills forward?
Just, amongst all the, when we talk about skills, we have 7 skills that an individual must hone throughout his professional career for him to be successful, ideally. But I think one, if I was to point it out, is something that I think is imperative, and that is integrity. It is something that I think a majority of today's workforce lack, because no matter how successful you are, if you do not have the value of integrity, it's like being up a creek without a paddle. You do not know how to navigate your way throughout the intricacies of your career, your life, so on and so forth. So I think integrity is something that should go focus.
So first of all, confidence. If a person has confidence in himself, he can actually learn things much easily, and he can work through things, and he can be much more efficient than an individual who is not confident enough. He should have confidence on himself, on his own skills, on his own abilities, and that will actually sail him through any kind of situation the company faces or the individual faces. Second thing is leadership. Leadership is not about just leading a team. Leadership is also about leading yourself, because you yourself consist of so many thoughts, so many ideas, and so many processes that go inside your mind and your body. So if you are able to lead yourself and carry yourself gracefully, you can also carry a team or a group of individuals or a squad in a way that you can achieve any goal easily. And leadership is something that needs to be taught in colleges and in institutions for higher education, so that individuals can become better employees, better bosses, and at the same time better leaders in general. And one more skill is resilience. A lot of people who are confident and really disciplined and really hard working sometimes collapse under huge and stupendous pressure and immense pressure. Resilience is something that needs to be taught very carefully, and it has to be imbibed in a person's genes, in fact, so that no matter what the situation is, they can achieve anything and they can perform tasks with maximum efficiency, no matter how hard the situation is. That's all I can say. Thank you so much.
So change is the only constant thing in the world that prevails. So we have to be a constant learner, and we have to keep learning until we die. This is a quote from Indra Nooyi. Be under the beta and always keep learning until your last breath. And we have to always be in the beta to be into the market and to lead the market. So we have to always be constantly learning in order to protect us from whatsoever is the epidemic or the pandemic or any kind of the risk that we have in the business. So that is one thing. And one more thing I would like to point out, that the campuses or the universities has to be shaped in such a manner that the person should not feel alien when he goes to some other company. He has to feel the experience that, oh, I have done this already. We had this kind of campus in our university itself. that kind of this thing has to be there. In terms of business, it has to be like in the United States of America, again, if I have to take the example, the business schools that they teach, if they are teaching banking to the people, it is located near to the bank. If they are teaching medical science, obviously, why medical people are doing really great? Because they teach practically what is there in the medical science. They teach how to treat the patients, not just mugging up the books and all of these things. So that is one thing that we need to create. Nothing should be alien. Knowledge is only one. And we have to not neglect anything, any part of the thing. Yesterday when I went to my teacher asking about the competitive examinations, she asked me, I told her that I need to prepare for the newspapers and all of that. She told me to take a book and write each thing every time. Like categorize everything, science and technology, the thing of social science, what are the issues. We cannot neglect science and technology. I'm a commerce student, I cannot neglect science and technology. You're a science student maybe, you cannot neglect commerce. What is happening in the economy, you should be aware of that. And in order to be aware of that, you need to know everything. I'm not telling you have to be a well-versed scholar. You have to be at least a generalist to be able to have a touch upon anything that you see. That's all.
Jai